Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to another episode of The Ways We Move, the podcast that talks about innovative mobility solutions and the people behind them. My name is Nicholas Zard, and I am your host on this podcast, and we are in our second season. So thank you for making this podcast such a success. It's beyond my wildest imagination. We just launched our Patreon site for those of you who would like to support us, where you can get access to these videos 48 hours before, and also another tier where you can not only get 48 hours before, but also a deep dive once a month. And of course, a few other freebies, which we'll be throwing in there once in a while. Your support means a lot to us. It helps us continue to bring you these videos and interviews free for you guys. But for today, I'm doing something that I'm enjoying a lot since we are in our second season. I'm re-inviting people from a year ago whom we spoke to. They're all good friends of mine, and I know them very well, and I know the incredible hard work that they're doing. And I wanted to bring back Ken Karklin from Pivotal to the stage, and he brought with us his Chief of Quality Control, Matt Hubert. So we had a really good conversation around, obviously, what does quality mean in the world of advanced air mobility, where things are being built. But Ken also gives us a lot of updates on what's been happening at Pivotal, a company that keeps on moving forward. And of course, if you know anything about Pivotal, it's a one-seater eVTOL, and it's they've already sold a lot of them out there. Ken tells us about how many flight hours it's had, about the battery state, what they've learned, where they're going with it next, and of course a lot more. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts and comments on all of this. And here's the call to action here. Would you fly in a Pivotal aircraft? Would you fly in a one-seater eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing? And well, what would you use it for? You'll hear about Tim Blum, who actually has one, and he drives out to his mailbox, but he also goes to the grocery shop with it. I mean, those are some of the case use, but in many ways, Pivotal is doing exactly what AAM promises to give us in the future: access to another form of mobility that we don't have yet, and that will make things a little bit more efficient. But without further ado, let's hear from Ken and Matt, and then we'll have probably a lot more questions for you guys after that. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week again. Well, Ken, welcome back to The Ways We Move. We're in our second season, and I see that you brought a guest here. So, let's go directly with an introduction. Introduce yourself and Matt next to you.
Sure, Nicholas. So, Ken Karklin, I'm the CEO at Pivotal. And next to me, this is Matt Hubert. He's our VP of Quality.
Hi, how are you, Nicholas?
I'm doing great. What about you, Matt? So we've never really met, but I'm very intrigued in finding out what you guys are doing. But let's talk a little bit more about you guys first. So Ken, if you want to check back, listeners or people who are watching us, we had a podcast where Ken introduced a little bit about his background. So we're gonna not do that today, if that's okay. But we'll go and talk a little bit about Matt. What is a quality person? What is a quality? I mean, Lord knows we need quality these days, but what does a quality person do, right?
What does a quality person do? Yeah, you know what? We get blamed at the end of the day whenever something doesn't work. But the reality is that we ensure that the processes and the systems are working as they should be. That's pretty much the high-level view of what quality does. I've had 27 years with DuPont back in the day.
Oh,
and
wow.
So they taught me a lot about a lot of things, engineering in particular, safety, number one, but quality. They took their quality systems very seriously. And so I've learned throughout the years, how quality contributes to a product line and how it's needed and what you have to do to ensure that you have good quality. And one of them was AS9100D, getting certified to a quality management system.
That's music to my ear. I went to I'm not going to say, but I went to a meeting one day, and the DoD was using a company to clean up the code of the software it was getting, and which just thought, this is crazy. Why are you spending extra money on that when you need to tell them to clean up their codes? But then again, that's why I'm running Linux. I've been running Linux for 20 years because I couldn't stand with these codes that were bloated and not cleaned up. So I understand a little bit about the quality part of it. So tell us a little bit about what's happening at Pivotal. I mean, you guys have been, honestly, I have a hard time following up with everything you're doing. You're doing a heck of a lot. Who wants to take the lead?
Well, I mean, we're busy, a lot has happened in the last 6 months. We've now trained close to 55 individual pilots. I think it's 54 or 55.
Wow.
One of them just got done last week.
Wow.
And we've completed, as of last week, 2,300 human piloted flights.
Wow.
That's bringing our total of all flights past 9,000. Haven't hit 10,000 yet. 50,000 miles flown. About, I think, 18 aircraft built and flown by people. And we are well along in our flight test campaign on Helix, which is the production follow-on to Black Flag V33, which is the developmental aircraft we took to a small batch pilot production in 23 and 24. Became the first company to just sell an eVTOL, a powered lift aircraft, to a private owner. Actually, there were 6 of them.
Yep.
And we also delivered another 8 aircraft to the Air Force for non-developmental testing in 2024. That was a lease, and we got them all back, and now we're using even more of them to support our business development efforts and concept of operations development in public safety and in defense. So, yeah, we've been just super busy. We've been flight testing the Helix since September. It's been very busy. We've now built 4 Helix and looking to take that to pilot production in the coming months when we're done with all of the design and development testing. Most of our flight envelope testing is now behind us.
Okay. Wow.
And we're ready to move to a combination of manned flight, and we've got some more work to do in environmental chambers and EMC chambers and whatnot to make sure we're really hitting all the requirements of DO-160G. We're actually testing the entire aircraft to the rotorcraft standard, which is the most stringent when it comes to EMC, electromagnetic compatibility. Because if it's going to be a computer-controlled fly-by-wire aircraft, that's, I think, what our customers would expect. So in spite of the fact that it's in the ultralight category, I don't think that you'll find an ultralight on planet Earth that's had as much system engineering attention or testing that has gone into it versus this aircraft. There's a lot of reasons for that. First, we don't plan on being an ultralight company forever. Quite frankly, it's been a great way to get to,
of course,
get to market, get the flight time, get the architecture really proven out.
Sure.
Get to a little bit of series production, a tiny bit of revenue, a little bit of an installed base. That installed base, every one of our aircraft is an IoT device. And after every flight, we're ingesting something on the order of 800 or 900 megabytes of telemetry into our data lake. And we are learning at a rate, I think, faster than anybody in the AAM space right now.
I agree.
Yeah, it's something that's always surprised me, not surprised me, but I love about you guys is you're pragmatic. And you could have gone for the 4 or 5 seaters carrying people, but you know what? That's easily a decade, $1 billion and 1,000 engineers. But your approach is sound and it's very good. You know, I also have to say, for people who don't even know what a Helix is, well, this is a Helix. It's a 1-seater. I'm lucky because I have one of the original, actually Black Fly, probably V3 I don't know what X we'll call it.
3.0. I don't see the floats. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the floats are not there. That's right. But basically, for those who don't know, you know, this is an eVTOL, an electric vertical and takeoff Helix, and it takes off like this. And then you can see the little wings right here. Then it can fly on the wings. So this is what these guys are doing, in case you were wondering. And if you were, you need to watch a lot more of our podcast. But so you that's right. Because I remember last year you left it off with you were working with the military military for a dual use approach too. In fact, we're talking about so many things, and even just what you said now, I don't even know where to go because you guys have done so many things. But suffice it to say, you are working towards making it easier. I do want to be the 10,000th pilot trained. That I think that'll be one hell of a scoop for the ways we move.
Well, if you get out here soon, you might be able to be the 100th. We could get you in queue to be the 100th pilot. I was lucky enough to get started early. Although I only been in the company for 3 years, I got to be number 13.
Really?
Lucky 13. Yep.
Lucky 13. Jacques Demolay would be proud of you.
I don't fly on Friday now. It's all good.
No, Jacques Demolay would be very proud of you.
And actually, our first customer is number 12. So, yeah, I was right behind him.
That was the gentleman you brought to Oshkosh a few years ago. I'm forgetting his name.
Tim Blum.
Tim Blum. Yeah, excellent. What a wonderful person. That's a great story. We need to get on the ways we move. Perhaps we can have him over here.
Well, he set a record on his aircraft too, because with Tim, it became all about building community. So his close friends all paid their money, came to our training. And I think it's his extended group is about 5 or 6 people who got trained to fly the aircraft, got certified by us, and then they visit him on the weekends, and they basically have a fly-in. They've got a black fly flying club going on.
Yeah, a little fly party going on
in North Central Washington State, all around Tim Blum. That has actually brought the utilization of his aircraft up to levels that we hadn't anticipated, because he's actually got 4 or 5 people flying it every weekend. But he became the first. His aircraft became the first airframe, an eVTOL, to have 1,000 flights on it. And, wow! Yeah, so he proved, I think, a lot of proof points there in terms of the endurance of the motors. Batteries. I'd love to say he did it with the original batteries. He could have done it with the original batteries, but because he was an early access program participant, and we had made a conscious decision that after 500 flights, we were going to repossess people's batteries and take them to the lab and do deep characterization to figure out, how much life did they really have left in it. Well, the answer was plenty.
Plenty, of course.
So he could have gone longer, but he is on his second set of batteries, to be fair. And he has had his carbon repaired at least once. He landed on a big rock, and it put a big hole in his fuselage, which had to be taken care of. But
he has
been, safely and just delighting in the joy of flight and sharing it with others.
Yeah.
There's actually a great YouTube video out called "The Gift of Flight," where it's him and a couple other black fly owners at an air park. In Massachusetts, right around the peak foliage, back in October, and they're just having the time of their lives. And there was one, we as the supplier were hardly involved in this at all. It was just a gathering of pilots. We did have one engineer join them, and we did hire a drone filming company to try to capture some of it. But our one engineer who participated in it took vacation, flew himself out to the East Coast at his own expense so he could go fly with Tim and his friends.
It reminds me of the early days of electric vehicles, and it was exactly that. A bunch of Tesla Roadster guys would get together, and that was it. So a few points you made, and most notably, this is carbon fiber. Well, not obviously this, but the real one is carbon fiber. And yes, it can be repaired, just like in Formula One and NASCAR and all these things, it can be repaired. But I want to also talk a little bit about the story of Tim, which was really enticing. But if I remember well, and please correct me if I'm wrong, his trip to the mailbox is 2 miles, which means and downhill. So in the winter, it's snowing. Well, a quad is okay, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. How cool is it to just get into your eVTOL and just go to the mailbox, take your mail, come back home, and that's it, done deal? Was that the story, right?
That is one of his many, many use cases. And how, as an individual, he managed to achieve so many flights on his aircraft.
Yes.
He flies to the grocery store. He lands about 300 feet away and gets a small stack of groceries once in a while. he flies and stops. He stops on the road. He gets his mail, and then he flies to his hilltop home. Which, in the wintertime, he's got a choice. It's eVTOL or Snowcat.
Yeah.
And he just revels in the fact that he can use the aircraft to go places that he could simply never get to.
Exactly.
Or he had to walk for hours to get there.
Yep. Exactly.
And he's probably one of the most experienced eVTOL pilots on the planet now. And lo and behold, he does not have a pilot certificate from FAA, although he is a parachutist with over 5,000 jumps and has been a paraglide instructor. So he's no stranger to things that fly.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we just went paragliding not too long ago. That was a really amazing experience. But yeah, his story always captured my imagination. I thought he's actually showing one of the potentials of advanced air mobility in the future, which is really a personal flying device that does what other things can't do. That's exactly it. That's what we're all working on.
We've got another customer in Oregon. He's in Ashland, and he's a professional jet pilot. Not of a big carrier, but kind of smaller business jets, and he flies from his home to the airport into controlled airspace. The controllers, of course, already know him. However, he's earned a nickname coming in on one of these into the airport in Ashland, Oregon. They now say, who's coming in? He just called us on the phone. And then he raises him on the radio. He said, it's the Martian.
The Martian. Oh, wow. Ken, you're bringing AAM to life. Virtually. Holy cow.
So of our early access program participants, he was one of the 3 people who had a pilot certificate. And his is, of course, multi-engine commercial jet.
Yeah.
So we had the other 2 people with pilot certificates were a father-daughter team out in Delaware.
Wow.
And he's an octogenarian, but doesn't look a day over 65. And she is about 50, I think. And they fly a lot. They're just inland enough to where it's a really nice evening flight for them to just step out, hop in their black fly out to the coast, fly down the coast for a couple of miles and come back. And that's one of the many things that they do.
I know that's one of the things too is I've been on a few simulators from other eVTOL companies out there. I think yours was definitely the most fun I've ever had. But it's also interesting, especially when I talk to helicopter pilots or I talk to fixed wing pilots. I'm like, yeah, you'll find some similarities, but it's a new aircraft. It's the third cousin. There's no rudder control with your feet, and it's a lot of fun, but once it gets airborne, yeah, it does fly. Like in this case, you have wings. So yes, it does fly like a fixed wing, but it's got the whole, almost collector kind of feel to it and then lending to it. And yeah, it's like it's not a lager, it's not a dark beer, it's an IPA, I guess. I don't know how else to say it, but yes.
Well, I agree. If I had to pick who learns the fastest,
good point.
Probably
good question.
Be gamers.
Of course,
gamers who have no fear of machines and being in airplanes and that kind of thing, because that probably takes a little bit of psychological adaptation when you're used to the safety of your living room. And now you're in this carbon fiber monocoque vehicle that weighs a little bit more than you do, maybe twice of what you do at most. And it's going to fly hundreds of feet in the air at 55 knots. That takes some getting used to the first time you do it, no doubt. But I would say the gamers actually learn fastest. Rotary wing pilots are next.
I would say because they're used to that. And fixed wings
movements and fine adjustments in hover that you do with the joystick are very similar to what you would do with the stick in a helicopter. So there's a commonality there.
That's true. Yeah, fixed wings, you mostly rely on wings all the time anyway. So hence that's why you can go to the bathroom on a fixed wing airplane. You can't do that on a helicopter.
No, you can't. But one thing you can do in black flies, you can just take your hands off and say, woohoo. look, Ma, no hands.
Yeah.
Yes,
once you're in forward flight and cruise, it's going to stay steady level, single direction until you disturb the controls again.
That's right. And that's one thing that you told us when we were on the simulator. You were like, all right, try to get yourself in trouble and then just let go. And and it just went right back to stationary or stationary.
Yeah, so if you're in hover, you're going to go to a stationary hold. If you're in cruise flight, it's going to be straight and level.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was, yeah, I didn't have an apprehension. I just had how in the heck is this going to work? But then once I understood that, I was like, all right, this is absolutely proof. It's perfect. It's the way it is wonderful.
Well, we've been improving our training and improving our training on a constant basis for the last, almost 3 years now.
Wow.
It's been almost 3 years, and we wanted to get it to where it's something that's scalable before we're, shipping Helix in any sort of volume. And our typical training time, because all our training is based upon successfully executing tasks and mastering tasks without being prompted, and doing correct emergency responses and a couple other factors. We've reduced the complexity of having to fly 3 and 4 and 5 failures deep, which is a little unrealistic, quite frankly. Yeah, kept everything to 1 or 2 failures deep, and between the flight time out at a local airport and the simulator time and classroom time, we're now down to an average of maybe 4 or 4.5 days. The shortest time we've had is 2 days now. The longest time somebody was really good. Yeah, the longest time we've had is something much, much longer than that, but there were reasons.
You know what? We all drive. We all know why. Some people get it, some people don't. It's just the way it is. So I understand that. I'm very well aware of that. Tell us about your everyday life. I mean, what does your everyday life look like in an AAM eVTOL company? What is it? What do you guys do? I mean, I'm assuming some people think you probably just have fun all the time flying, right?
Oh, well, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? So beyond Matt over here, there's a glass door and a glass wall, and on the other side there's about 40 engineers who keep looking over and wondering when I'm going to leave for the day, but it's only 12 o'clock, so they're really out of luck.
When are you going for lunch?
Yeah, I'm going for lunch. Because we are busy. I mean, so here we are, we're trying to develop, obviously, the Helix aircraft for mainstream personal aircraft ownership. But that same platform is going to be used for public safety. Derivatives of that are going to be used for defense applications. We have, many dozens of customers in the personal air vehicle side of the universe. We have a handful of customers in the public safety side of the universe and a handful of customers in the defense side of the universe, all of which we're trying to meet, with their needs. And so it's not an easy sale. No, it's not easy lift. It's all of this is a complex person-to-person sale, and it's really all about learning what are the customer's pain points, what are the problems we're trying to solve, and if we find in that journey that you know what, we're not going to be the best ones to solve this problem, we don't. We tell the customer that, and we move on, because sometimes we feel we're getting pulled into a UAS cargo application or something, and that's all it's ever going to be. Yeah, that's not who we are. And it's a crowded space, and there's a lot of folks who are really good at that, and we're going to let them go work with them. Now, if it's an optionally manned application, and by the way, we want to do some unmanned cargo as well, that's something we're very interested in, but it's got to have the human element to it, because we're pursuing human flight airworthiness in every case for everything for our roadmap. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
That's why AS9100 is so important.
I was quality here because
I was going to ask Matt the next questions, but you're right. But I'm glad you said that, because we were talking about we just had Dave Merrill from Air, just last week, and we asked the same question. Is it do you ever feel tempted to go into the PAX eVTOL side of things? But no, you got to stick to what you do well, and then of course you're going to get pulled in one direction or another at one point or another. other, but you got to set the line and do what you do best. And yeah, in the future, of course, we want a 50-seat eVTOL aircraft. Obviously, that may or may not happen. I think it will personally, but hopefully before I'm in a wheelchair, please. But I wanted to ask Matt the same question. I mean, how was it to all of a sudden working in a startup environment is very different than working in a company. Both of you know that very well.
Yeah, especially a big company like DuPont.
Exactly, or AV actually, and it's the same thing. It's a different world, and I think most people either glorify it or maybe have a little bit of a romantic notion about what it is to work in a startup. But guys, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and if you think that's a lot of work, it's even more a lot of work than that. So Matt, tell us about your experience.
All right, I'll tell you about my experience. So Ken mentioned that R&D is busy developing this Helix so that it can meet all the requirements that we have for it, which is, duration, speed, reliability, durability. It goes on and on and on. How many requirements do we have? It's in the thousands, right? For the flight envelope.
The expanded requirements? Yeah, it's over 1,000. It's a very big JAMA file.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so technically we don't have to wait on the FAA. So we could be selling thousands of these as soon as we build up the manufacturing capability.
Interesting, yeah.
My responsibility for quality is making sure that each one of these makes the requirements that engineering spent a year to develop and made changes along the way and drawing modifications and, different suppliers. Quality comes in and says, okay, now we got to make 1,000 of these things. So everything that you guys have been doing is great. We're going to document it. We're going to develop our suppliers. We're going to develop our internal processes. We're going to develop our people. So when I come in on a day in a startup where I have really 1,000 aircraft that can potentially go out, this year, we come ready to work every day, and we're dealing with improvements that we have to make in our quality management system every day. And there's not a moment that we're not talking about what we have to do to improve and what we have to do to get ready for the onslaught of orders that we have coming.
So I mean, it almost sounds like, I guess it sounds like it probably is, but you're a project manager that has to implement quality, not just for the final product, but everything that happens in between or even before, down to the nuts and bolts virtually.
That's exactly right.
And then you have to make sure that it all fits together. So it's not just the single individual items. It's how it all comes together, module, sub-modules, so on, so forth, and the final products. But does it also go as far out as how people are using it out there? I mean, obviously, you probably take a lot of cues from what's happening out there with people like Tim and all of these, all of your customers.
There's a whole second half of this of the analysis that goes on because all the flight data we get. So we get tons of flight data every day from customers that are flying our aircraft, not to mention our own internal fleet. And so we're constantly looking for ways that we can be proactive and predictive maintenance on some of these aircraft to make sure that, if the battery's starting to go a little bad, we know about it ahead of time so that we can ground them or bring them in. The same thing with the way they're flying it. If they're always, landing with zero capacity left in their battery, right? We have to take action on that. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we do in the background to help our customers from the analytics side.
Yeah, and then a lot of that, in inspection, it's all done by algorithms that are looking at the data that's coming through because it's too much data to interrogate manually. Although we've got some programs that chart everything, and then some of the outliers really stand out. But I mean, we can infer operator behavior from the data we get.
That's right.
Informs, not just do we need to have an intervention with a customer because they seem to have this habit. Now, nobody's ever landed with zero, to be fair. But they have a habit of, taking it down into, 18, 19, 20, 15%, before landing. Looks like they did a precautionary landing over here. What is that? Oh, it's a cornfield. Okay, we need to have a conversation with that customer. And it also informs what we're going to do in our training.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good
being able to observe the near real time, real world challenges and stressors that our customers have experienced. That can help inform training, and we make better pilots. And in LSA and general aviation, what matters more than skilled pilots with good judgment? That's the number one determiner of good outcomes.
And that's the one thing that Yeah, and that's the one thing that's probably the hardest part of what you guys are doing is you just don't know what somebody is going to want to do, fly over where and everything. Actually, when we went paragliding, they told us that field over there, we cannot go. And lo and behold, somebody did go and land in there and got hurt, and somebody else got hurt in the woods. And of course, paragliding, there's no AI. It's just all human input. But for you guys, that must be the hard part. You just don't know what somebody's going to do, right? And
I'm sure, before we ship our 1,000th aircraft, we will have experienced every kind of personality. But everyone has been very different. That I can tell you so far.
Oh yes, I bet. Yeah, the human behavior is fascinating in so many different ways.
And to be fair, though, I mean, to date, we've only had to have that discussion with one individual where we had to say, "Hey, this isn't for you."
Really? Wow.
So
that's good.
Happened. That was a real thing.
That's a good batting average.
Again. But
of course,
look, we've got to have customers who have good experiences, who are safe, who are happy, and tell their friends.
And tell their friends.
If they want to tempt fate, often they're probably not our ideal profile customer.
No, I can relate to that on a totally different level. We just refurbished a boat, and so now we're starting to go. We're in Savannah, Georgia, so of course, but I can tell you that probably about 50% of the people I meet have no idea how to drive boats or on the wrong side. And it's like, you should not have a boat. There should be a license. There should be a license for boat drivers everywhere. Come to think of it, kind of thing. So, but yeah, I understand that very well. So tell us a little bit about your projects going forward. You see, you guys are working overtime. You're doing a great job. What do we have to look forward to, especially this year, where a lot of things are happening, and the next few years?
Well, without speculating too much, what I can tell you about that, I think we could say is going to happen with high confidence is this is going to be the year that somebody saves a life with one of our aircraft.
Oh, wow!
That's going to be a real thing. Wow. And we're super excited about that, and because we just want to figure out how, in the hands of the right people, this can be a tool that's going to make a difference in people's lives, and it's going to, be public benefit will be clear. And the more folks we can get flying with, on that very important white hat mission, it's good for our personal aircraft sales. It's good for the perception of AAM. It's good for AAM adoption in the future state. So it really benefits everybody. And so the sooner we can make that happen, the better. That's a big one. The other thing I think that will happen, but you won't hear too much about it, is we'll start quietly satisfying some incremental defense needs, or be going into more further experimentation, and hopefully also working on a larger aircraft.
Of course.
Then finally, I would add, we initially evaluated the EIPP. This is coming out of the drone dominance executive orders over the summer. Did a deep dive with FAA, made a first level determination that this is an unfunded mandate that has nothing appropriated in the GFY 25 or 26 budgets. So how is this going to get paid for? Who are the primes? And then, of course, they say they're looking to the state, local, and tribal governments to do that. What I underestimated was the number and amount of state, local, and tribal governments that wanted to invest in this aggressively. So where we did an initial review of the EIPP and what that landscape looked like, judged it to be a project that's going to let some air taxi guys fly a little bit more pre-certification. The demand that we saw from some of the state and local governments and some of the multi-state teams was far greater than we had anticipated. We were on 5 teams for EIPP.
Whoa! And, good for you.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them, their proposals won't see the light of day. I'm sure some of them are going to be selected. So we'll be doing something in that space. Stay tuned.
There are a lot of fantastic projects going on right now. I was just looking at betas in Hawaii. I had Don Birchoff here who was talking about what they were doing with their weather systems, and Tony Drummond too. I mean, it's really exciting. The whole idea, it has to be implementable in 90 days. That's the winner part. But you're right. I think originally I just kind of thought, well, isn't that just an RFP plus kind of thing? But, no, the success is right there, and it's implementing it in a true way, in a physical, palpable way, I guess. So good for you for being involved with so many of them.
Well, and we knew we'd have to take some extra steps to make sure that we're a fully compliant OEM. So we did those as well, and we have a type certification project open with FAA. We've got a number of larger aircraft on the roadmap, so there's no reason not to do that. But I would say that we aren't staking the business on it. Our focus is going to be service specific, armed service specific airworthiness for the aircraft for the relative near term, or operating as a public aircraft operation, a PAO. There's a number of ways, a number of paths to get to where we need to be as a business that don't put achieving a power lift type certification in that critical path, because nobody's done that yet.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of things that still need to happen in front of us going forward. You mentioned something about also the battery, and I don't know why I'm just remembering this right now, but in 2008, I was talking to Ed Care in Southern California, Edison, and these guys were testing in their garage of the future lithium-ion batteries. This is 2008, right? At normal charging, no fast charging, and they had found that they could get 200,000 miles without any noticeable degradation. And that was the one point I wanted to bring before, because that kind of fits with what you guys are saying. Even after 500 hours, you still have enough and you can still go on. So just a little.
Yeah, that was 500 flight cycles. So, full cycles, yeah. 100% state of charge down to something in the 20s or 30s.
Wow.
And no measurable degradation at all. We start to see a little bit of degradation in terms of total energy storage, around 1,000 flight cycles.
Oh, really?
But even that is not a bad thing, right? So as long as the internal resistance of all the batteries is staying fairly consistent, we don't see a lot of drift, and they age well. So we got a long way to go before we'll know what a single set of packs with 1,000 cycles looks like on it, because we changed out the first ones at 500, and we didn't put them back, right? Because we destructively discharged them ultimately. So we'll have to wait for that next set to hit 1,000 cycles to see how they're doing.
Well, I've got a good use for that. Those extra batteries. Now you can have your own pivotal wall-mounted system to offer your clients, because that's going to be good for many years. And of course, I'm also assuming the data you're getting from places where it's colder, places where it's hotter, all of that is going to, of course, change the life cycle of the batteries. And then just a reminder for our listeners and watchers is that this is just charged at, level 1. This is your socket. This is your home charger, right? You're not using a level 2 charger, are you?
No, we charge either level 1. So if you want to just charge overnight, you can do a level 1. So you and I are both from the EV world, so we'll use terms like level 1, level 2, DC fast charge. The reality is everything we do is DC fast charge, or
That's
DC. True. However, there's one that plugs into the 120 volt outlet on your wall, and that'll charge it overnight. There's another one that plugs into what looks like a dryer plug, NEMA
That's
450. Right. That is 240 volt split phase, 50 amps, and it's going to charge, I think, 70 minutes. Now,
it should be over an hour.
We use 2 of them at a time, but the National Electrical Code has a problem with you connecting one device with 2 places on the grid, so we don't advertise that. But in all seriousness, what we ship with is a single DC fast charger if you buy that option, and that's depending on how much you discharge the batteries, it's going to be anywhere from 50 to 70 minutes to recharge and fly again, up to 100%.
Yeah, if it's depleted, I would assume just slightly over an hour, and Yeah. Are you at liberty to tell us what kind of batteries are you using? I'm not talking about the manufacturer, but what
Well,
the
they are
chemistry
lithium
is?
ion. Yeah,
They're just lithium ion. Okay.
Yeah, they're just lithium ion. We were using actually lithium polymer cells in the black
That's
fly,
right.
and we've migrated away from that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Okay. So tell us more. What else are you working on right now that might be interesting? I know you guys you're doing a heck of a lot of work. Is there anything else you wanna talk about before we get to the more personal stuff that we usually get into?
Boy, more personal stuff. I don't know if I can handle that. But
What is your favorite color?
blue, no yellow. Seriously, I think that's probably. We've got our hands full with those 3 segments.
Yeah.
We have no desire to branch out and pursue other segments with our technology yet. Let's see how we do with public safety, defense, and personal air vehicles first.
Yes.
That's going to keep the company very consumed for the coming foreseeable future. What do we see in the future? We do see larger aircraft in the future because you know what?
Yes.
Our secret sauce is what we're all about is the unbelievable simplicity of this tilt aircraft architecture. Yep. So on this beautiful aircraft, there are 12 control surfaces. 12. 8 of them are RPM values, enabling everything you need to do in horizontal flight and vertical flight. And I don't think that if you look at any other eVTOL that's out there, and you start counting control surfaces, and yes, that includes variable pitch props, whatever the prop pitch is. That's going to include the RPM values. That's going to include aileron positions, flap positions, rudder positions, all that stuff. I got into the 40s on just about every eVTOL out there.
Wow.
And yes, we have a dozen on this. And this is an aircraft architecture that scales quite nicely into about the 6,000 or 7,000 pound gross takeoff weight range. Now, we might have more than 8 motors. It might be 12. It might be 16. It might still be 8, but they'll be really big. You know, we're working through all those trades of how you would address a much, much larger heavy lift type aircraft that is optionally manned, capable of 2,000 pounds or more cargo, and can be delivered to the Department of Defense at an attritable price point, and used for a range of missions in contested airspace, anything from just cargo in and out to replacement troops out and casualties back. But the point is to deliver the commander the kind of flexibility they need to go prosecute a very difficult mission without a lot of cost. No, we won't be breaking the speed barrier. These are going to have, flight speeds that are similar to other rotary wing aircraft, but that's because efficiency is the name of the game, not necessarily breakneck speed.
Yeah, you said something that I don't know if you remember the BMW i3 and i8. The designer is Benoit Jacob, who's a good friend of mine, and one of the best things he's ever said is I asked him, I said, why are they so different and so unique? And he goes, you'll notice one thing, and you'll notice it too on this: no gimmicks, no magnetic, pneumatic, anything that comes in, comes out. And he said, I wanted this thing to drive in 50 years. Like this will fly in 50 years. There's no reason why it shouldn't, right? Just put a new pair of batteries in it and that's it. And that's something that I think is very important, is keep it simple, the KISS system. And I think you guys did a really good job with that part, obviously. Yes.
Yeah. It's going to help us in any durability and reliability testing that's done for the FAA as well.
Yeah, and it's a lot of weight and cost and complexity that effectively we leave on the ground that's not burdening the aircraft or its mission.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So last year I did ask you that question, Ken, so I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask instead Matt the question is, let's talk about your motivation. I mean, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Why are you doing this instead of, a nice job at DuPont and retire and that's it kind of thing, right?
Sure. Yeah, no, I retired from DuPont because I wanted to try something different, and I went to AeroVironment after that. And AeroVironment was a fun experience, but I wasn't done yet. I really wanted to see what a startup was like, and Ken offered me the opportunity. And so I've seen exactly what it's like. I've been here 2 years now.
Ever since.
I know, poor guy. That was really rotten, Ken. Really?
Yeah. But the neat thing is I've recruited all the people that work for me. We have a good relationship. We all come to work in the morning, looking to make a difference in the eVTOL space. And, I think that's just what keeps us going. We're kind of all excited to get there.
You said something that's so true, because I've been involved with, EVs and of course AAM now for 20 years. And the one thing that I do notice is, obviously it's a small, community. It's a small community, but I've noticed that a lot of people follow one another from one company to another. Now, especially true in the EV industry. I was talking to David Mosley, by the way, who, helped design the drivetrain of the Model S, the Tesla Model S with Peter Rawlinson, right? And all of these guys are more or less kept in touch, and a lot of them have to, keep on working with one another. And once in a while, you have an offshoot, somebody goes somewhere else. Wow, that's wonderful. So the whole savoir-faire keeps on going further and further and further out. And now we're seeing the same thing happening in the eVTOL industry, in the AAM industry. So I'm glad you said that. That's something listeners and watchers should know, that is, once you get in this, you're part of a big family, basically.
Yeah.
So.
And it's definitely a challenge. For someone that likes a challenge, go to a startup.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A startup in anything. I mean, obviously a startup in AAM territory that is not yet fully fleshed out. Yeah, that has a lot of different challenges that you might not have elsewhere. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, you mentioned Tesla. So we actually just brought on Phil Bettel, who actually set up the line for the Roadster across the bay.
Really? That's a name blast from the past. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he set up the line for the Model S battery pack and powertrain over in Fremont. And now he's setting up the line for the Helix.
Wow, so you guys are really that far ahead. Now you're looking at full-blown mass production.
That's what we're trying to tell you.
Yeah. No, I mean,
we didn't become the first AS9100D certified OEM who manufactures aircraft in the AAM space.
Yeah.
To not build aircraft. That's why we're here.
Yeah. No, you're right. That brings it well together. In case,
don't get me wrong. There's others with AS9100D, so our friends at Whisper have it for their propulsion, right?
Of course,
propulsion scope. Yeah. And it was probably Ehang in China who got it first. But as you mentioned, China's its own island, and they got it a couple of years ago. But we're the first one that's a pure play AAM company that's got that certification in Europe or North America.
So actually, now that you mentioned Europe, what are your plans for Europe and the rest of the world? Because, one of the things that we're always asking about is we hear these eVTOL companies that say, we're going to be operating in Dubai. And our first question is, pray do tell, how will you hover at 140 Fahrenheit in the middle of summer, right?
Right. I know.
Hello.
Yeah. So, we're not in a hurry to, bring aircraft to the Middle East just because we can. Although it would make for some beautiful shots, say in January, February, the background of the dunes and what have you. That said, we could probably do that in Southern California if we really wanted to.
True.
Fly over Death Valley National Monument. Europe and I should just call it rest of the world. We're in the process of navigating that. It's not, a race. We're not in a hurry. Because we want to have the Helix available, per shipment at the time that we get all those regulatory okays. There's a number of places where our strategy is to basically come in under the existing microlight rules, and we wouldn't be the first. So, for example, in Germany, the Dole approved at one time our friends at Volocopter to fly as a microlight. Will they do that again for anyone else? The answer is apparently no. However, there is a modified case that's being built and that will probably fall under. If you go the straight up EASA route for an eVTOL, it doesn't make economic sense because the entire aircraft has to be DAL-B, even for a single passenger aircraft that you're not going to fly over congested areas. It just doesn't make any sense. Clearly, EASA doesn't care at all about the recreational market or the GA market because they're punishing it, they're overburdening it. Yeah, and what we're seeing in places like Australia and New Zealand is a level of openness and a need to collaborate because not always do they feel it's the right thing just to plug it into the existing microlight rules, but they'd like to find out an appropriate way to introduce some additional requirements so that a sophisticated aircraft and a safe aircraft like Blackfly or Helix is going to get in and it's going to get the airworthiness certificate, no problem, but someone that is, how shall I put it, substantially less sophisticated and less safety-minded is not going to get the rubber stamp.
Yeah. I think it's also fair to say that we've been experimenting with exporting and all the challenges that come with it. How's our aircraft going to survive the transport, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so we are doing some work there for sure.
Yeah.
In the last 12 months, we've exported to Canada and to New Zealand. So,
wow! I mean, New Zealand, that's such a given. That absolutely. And I do understand because I'm European, so I understand what the rules are over there. But I can think of 2 countries that might be interesting, and that's an offline conversation that we'll have a little bit later.
I'm all ears.
So maybe one very last thing from both of you to our listeners. What would you like them to walk away from with today? I mean, there's a lot of news, there's a lot of hype, but there's also a lot of concrete things out there. What's your take, and what would you like them to walk away from with today?
Well, we're all probably listening to podcasts in AM because we're passionate about aviation and we're passionate about the technological, future and what it's going to bring. And if you have that level of interest and you've listened this long, I'd say go to pivotal.aero, go click on watch my videos, and see what the future holds for us in terms of the ability to enjoy the freedom of flight. Yep. Because we're actually causing it to happen today, and it's incredible. And people marvel over it, and they're going to write books about it. It's a beautiful thing. And it's just another way to observe and enjoy aviation and what nature brings to us.
It truly is. It's a once in a lifetime revolution, and your videos have gotten me so. It's like when people play on computer games, this is for real. This is happening. That's the difference. And Matt, what's your takeaway?
From the quality side, I want them to feel confident that they're getting a safe aircraft, a well-built aircraft. We stand behind it, and so that's the message I want to get out to people. We're putting the standards in place. We're ensuring that we comply with them, and we want to make sure that everyone has a great flying experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also another thing too. I mean, that anybody who works in aviation, they know that the first thought of the day is safety. The last thought of the day is safety. Anybody who doesn't do that, you should not be in aviation. Done deal. Go be a daredevil somewhere else, but not there.
Well, we took the time to write down our values as a company.
Yeah, and that's important.
Value number 1 is safety above all, and the tagline or the clarifying statement, as I like to put it, is behave as though a loved one was aboard every single flight.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's very clarifying of purpose and of judgment, and it's how we have all 100 plus of us thinking in every decision we have to make.
Yep. And if you don't believe in that, I'll like to introduce you to the notion of karma, because it does come back and bite you in, know what. So be careful. And if it's not in this lifetime, it's even worse in the next one. So don't even go there. That's silly stuff. Yeah, but no, I mean, joking apart, that is aviation. I'm always amazed when people on an airplane are scared of flying. I'm like, and you drove a car to get here? That's worse. End of discussion.
That's the level of safety that we're going for. The redundant systems, the one crash in every million flights, that type of Six Sigma is what we're definitely after.
Yes. No single point of failure. I mean, the list goes on. The list goes on. In fact, we could. You probably should get us. We should get a safety guy more often on the podcast, just to ease the minds of those people who are scared.
Totally.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe Matt, we'll have another. And by the way, open invitation. Of course, you guys can come back whenever you want. But I wanted to thank you for being here today, and after all these years too, I'm really excited now. I wanted to get back into the simulator and see how much has changed from that very first one I did 3 years ago, and I'm sure a lot has changed. Maybe on my next time I go to Northern California, I'll come and see you guys.
That'd be great. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, they'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun. But thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing a little bit about what's happening with you guys. And we certainly look forward to more good news this year. And I know we will have some good news this year.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you, guys. You take great care, and we'll talk to you very soon again. Thank you for being on the podcast.
You bet.
Thank you.
See you soon.